Hello, YouTube. Welcome to the Stratosphere Lounge. I'm your host, Bill Whittle. We are streaming live, a little bit late tonight, but we're here. Gonna have to do a short show tonight. I'm afraid. We've already set up on Twitch. We've set up the famous Stratosphere Lounge bingo card because all I essentially do is just repeat myself. Once you've seen the first 400 of these or so, you pretty much get the whole idea. No sense to really keep coming back. And mostly just do a kind of a mix-up or randomly jump into any one particular episode, and you'll get the general gist of things. Those of you who've been here for a while know that Thursday nights, occasionally, once every 3 months or so, it's a night where I have to go pick up my cat at the vet, and my cat was on the bingo card. So congratulations for those of you who had cat on bingo card. I got a little gray cat named Bean, who is diabetic, and he has to go in for his blood panels once every 2-3 months or so. And unfortunately, he's not actually getting his blood panels done tonight. It's just I have to go in to talk to the doctor. So he may end up going in for his blood panels next week, which would mean, if it means next week, I'll just push it to Friday so we don't have to do another short show. But I have to be there early. I have to be there before 8 o'clock. It's now 6:15 Pacific time, 6:17. And I need to get in there and talk with the doctor. He's doing okay. He's just nothing catastrophic. He's getting a lot older. He's getting to be an old cat, and his hair is thinning out. His whiskers are thinning out, and I don't know if it's whether it's just due to age, but it's possible. I seem to recall that before we found out he was diabetic, that he had this same kind of thing where his hair was getting thin, and so I need to have them run his blood sugar panels again. I hope they can do that on a day other than Thursday. I wasn't able to get him in for today. But I'm hoping it's just a question of readjusting his insulin dose, but it may just be he's just getting to be an old cat. So we will see what happens next week. If it turns out, as I said, that he's got to go next Thursday, then I'll push the Stratosphere Lounge show to Friday. Another item on the bingo card I saw in the warm-up over on the Twitch comments was the bitchin' Camaro. I have a Camaro 2LT. That's what the VIN says. It was assigned 2LT at manufacturer, but it identifies as a rally sport. I've been upgrading the car with new headlights, new taillights, new smoked-out brake lights. I put in new side door panels. It's great. I got ripped off on the car. I thought I was getting a rally sport. They sold me something else. But I'm slowly building it up to where I want it. What's the last thing I just put in? Oh, the instrument cluster. Put in the SS instrument cluster. None of this stuff is terribly hard. If the YouTube is a lot of different things, and one of the most amazing things it is a repository of knowledge. I think it's taken over for Wikipedia in a lot of ways because there are 7 tutorials on how to do every single thing in the world on YouTube. So what I generally do is I'll take a look and see. I'll check a tutorial or 2 tutorials or 3, see if it looks like it's something I can do. And when I see 3 different people do it, I figure I can pretty much pull that off. So yeah, pull the whole instrument, pull the whole dash panel off, and then pull the instrument front panel off over the top of the steering wheel, pull out the instrument cluster, put in the new instrument cluster. So now it looks like an SS Super Sport, and it's an enormous improvement over the Toyota Camry dashboard that the stock Camaro has that they sold me. So every day I'm getting more and more friendly with it. The thing I really wanted, and more than anything, was a heads-up display. Now, the heads-up display is a gigantic, enormous hassle. It's expensive for one thing, and secondly, it needs a whole new wiring harness, and it's just a whole lot of work. There's an aftermarket, number of aftermarket heads-up displays. Some of them you just put on the dashboard and it reflects off your window, but sometimes you can get double reflections that way. And and then there's one I saw that's a little self-contained unit. It's got its own little curved screen, so when you look at the car from the front, it's got this kind of curved mirror reflective screen, and I get inside and sit down. I get my heads-up display. I get my speedometer. I get my RPMs. I get a RPM dial, and I get time of day and all kinds of other cool widgets. So it's starting to feel like the spaceship I thought I was buying. So I'm having a lot of fun working on the car, and the nice thing about it is it's not one big giant, check I have to write. I can do it in little $200, $300 chunks. Instrument cluster was the most expensive thing. Actually, it was a little over $500 for that, but it makes me happy, and I'm driving it a lot more aggressively, which makes me happy as well. I do have some good news, and which I'll get to in a minute. It's not related to what I'm about to say. I had to cancel our Monday show because I had to go down for an MRI. Turns out once I got there, they couldn't do it on Monday night because the MRI prescription called for with and without contrast, and the nighttime appointment that I booked, because it was the first available, they don't do the contrast after 4:30 p.m., so I drove out down there for nothing, canceled the show for nothing, had to do it Wednesday morning. I had an MRI in 1993. I had a ruptured disc in 93, and the machine they put me into in 93 was much more modern than the machine they put me into yesterday morning. They put me into a MRI machine that was manufactured in Bulgaria in 1974. It was just it was like old Sparky, It wasn't real good to look at, for one thing. It was just kind of the modern ones they got this kind of curved opening, and they've got, sometimes they have like a little soft light around the rim of the thing, and the thing looks super, super high tech, and and all this really cool stuff, but this thing was just a tube and just wheeled me in there. I was originally going in for soft tissue on the neck because I've got some swollen lymph nodes. As I was leaving the doctor's office, the MD's office, I mentioned the business with my vision going out. I told you guys about that. I thought I had a detached retina. They went and imaged it. Retina's fine. Oh, yeah, I just said I had my hand on the door to get out of the doctor's office. I was just not even thinking about it. Oh, by the way, one other thing. I was working on graphics the other night, doctor, and I was just sitting here, and all of a sudden, vision in my left eye, there's like this wavy curtain across the left side of my eye, and everything below that was dark, and I thought, that's not good. And I got up and walked around, and then the dark curtain kind of cleared up within a minute or two. Then my eye was a little out of focus for a while, but went to the retina specialist the next day, and he said, your retina's fine, and there's no bleeding in the back of your eye or anything like that. Just mentioned that casually to the doctor. And then the doctor said, oh, really? I said, yeah. He said, okay. I'm going to modify your neck MRI. I'm going to want a brain MRI. I thought, oh, well, that's nice. And he said, if you find yourself in that situation again where your vision has gone out and like part of your eye like that, just you just like lose half of the vision in your eye, even transitory like that. I said, yeah. He said, get yourself to the emergency room immediately. I was like, well, now, isn't that a bundle of happy news? So I don't know what they're looking for, but I went in and they scanned my brain. Now, of course, they had to readjust the scale on the MRI in order to get that entire brain scanned in there, with all the incredible activity that's going on in there. Actually, they had to turn the MRI up to 11 because they couldn't get through the skull. The skull was too thick. They had to just keep cranking up the power. She needs more power. I don't mean to. I got fully degaussed, according to Dave Big Booty. He's exactly right. I don't mean to make anybody who's nervous about these things more nervous, but like I said, this was a very old MRI, and it didn't make new MRI sounds like whoosh, 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 whoosh. It went boop, 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 boom, boom. First thing they did was they gave me these shooting range earplugs to put in there. It was bloody loud, and I was having the time of my life, of course, because to me that's as close as I get is getting into the Lost in Space hibernation chamber. I just thought it was epic and really cool. I loved it. You lie down, they put this thing on your face, and then they just kind of keep your head in place, and into the tubomagnetics you go. And there's absolutely no way to tell that you're. I don't know. I looked it up once. I want to say it was 300,000 Gauss, but I may be wrong about that. Maybe it's millions. I don't know. It's a hell of a magnetic field though. And I thought, my God, it'd be hilarious if the thing was actually out of balance, like an out of balance dishwasher, and every time it went around, it clunked you a little bit on the back of the head, so you go in fine, and then you come out with brain damage. That would be pretty cool. But boy, it was. So I'm in there for 20, 25 minutes until the smoke detector went off. They just basically kept cooking me until the smoke detector just went off, and then they had to do the plus contrast. So they detubify me, kind of wheel me out of this thing, and okay, it's time for your tracer dye. Which arm do you want? I said, left arm. You doing okay? I said, thumbs up. A-okay. I am A-okay, and I'm ready to light this candle. Let's go. Labco, I didn't do it. I didn't do it because I was preoccupied with some of my medical stuff, but I didn't forget my promise, and I broke it, and I'll do my best to make up for it. So by Monday, because I have some good news on Stratosphere Studio stuff, so I'm sorry about that. Anyway, so they said, which arm do you want to use? I raised my left arm, so the guy did, again, brilliant job, just incredibly great job of intravenous stuff. And they give me this injection. I'm not even looking. I'm just staring up at the ceiling, and back in I go. I remember being in this thing thinking, if you were trying to design, get your bingo cards ready. If you were trying to design a series of sounds to scare macaques with, or other monkeys, this would pretty much be Harry Harlow's, dream terrifier. It didn't scare me in the slightest because I love this kind of thing. I genuinely been looking forward to the MRI because, like I said, spaceman, astronaut, space capsules, all that stuff. I just thought it was cool. But as I got out of there the second time for good, I said, man, I'll tell you, that thing is, it gets your undivided attention. And I said, I feel so sorry for people. Merry Christmas to everybody who's saying Merry Christmas. A little early, but thank you. We'll take it. 30,000 Gauss, not 300,000. Thank you, Don. And I'm saying, I feel so sorry for people who have, anxiety about this kind of thing, because it's hard to imagine a machine that's, like I said, this was an old MRI. It was damn near a steampunk MRI, it was like brass fittings, and ornate kind of leaf motifs on the floor stands and that kind of thing. But I said it must be tough for people with anxiety about these kind of things. He says, yeah, we get a significant number of our patients, they just lie down, and before we can even raise the table to get them in there, they just say, no, I'm just not doing it. So anyway, I don't know what they're looking for or what they are poking around in there for. I'm suspecting that that vision cutout might have been due to either. We looked for this in the retina on the test. So it's either leakage, either a small hemorrhage or a blood clot in the back of the eye. That's what we tested for last week, and the back of the eye came okay. So maybe something like that up in the big brain. Who knows? But I'm one of those guys. The reason I keep talking about my medical stuff, I don't consider myself to be a sick guy. I don't feel like I never get sick. I got COVID, and that made me sick as a dog, but I'm generally just a super healthy guy. But I talk about these things because I've had a number of people tell me over the years that, including Bert Rutan, who has basically told me on a couple occasions I saved his life when I talked about going to get my cardiac stress test, and that was another radioactive dye situation. Finally convinced him to go, and he was in real trouble. So for those of you out there, my attitude towards these things is, as soon as I get, thank you for the prayers and the kind words, everybody. But my attitude towards this sort of stuff is, if I get a serious symptom, I get on it. I don't wish it away. My wife is very different in this regard. She avoids tests like the plague. She just doesn't want to get bad news. And to me, no matter how much I try to talk her out of it, I say, honey, that just means you're scared all the time. You don't, let's just go and find out. It's almost certainly going to be good news. And if it turns out it's not good news, have I ruled out an ocular migraine? I have not. I haven't had any headaches associated with anything. I don't know if that's if ocular migraines have headaches, but I think the doctor, in his typical doctor way, says, "Look, it's just a routine test, just ruling things out." And I thought, okay, well, maybe that's the case, probably the case, but you never know. Yeah, she just is terrified of getting bad news. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Just thank you very much, all of you. Very, very kind words. It's very, very nice. I could take anything. I'm real good with bad news, and I like to think I'm good in emergencies. But the one piece of bad news I couldn't take, I think, would be to have a doctor say to me, the worst thing I can imagine is having a doctor say to me, if you'd come in earlier, that's not what you want to hear. So if you are, if you're one of those people who have symptoms about something and you're a little worried about it, I'd recommend you go have it checked out. Every single time in my experience, it's turned out to be either good news or not as bad as I thought it would be. And in those few occasions when I've had to do that, got on top of it early, and it was a non-event. Yes, strong like bull, smart like frog. So I'm doing real well. Lapco92 wants to know if I'm going blind on purpose just so I don't have to watch 1, 2, 3. I wouldn't. I don't know. I'm weighing which one I would rather endure. To be honest with you. So Roger Ramjet says he had a complex meniscus tear, so orthoscopic surgery. Yikes. So anyway, I'm not doing the whole victim thing. I'm just, in fact, I'm trying to portray as strongly as I can the opposite of the victim thing, which is to just, we live in an age of medical miracles with diagnostic tools like machines that can spin enough magnetic fields around your body to cause your soft tissues to resonate. And I'm still not 100% sure about this. I feel like I should know more about it. I'd always thought that they just spun a field around you, but I read when I was taking a look at what causes the noises on these MRIs, I think it's possible that they actually compress the field around you, that they're basically just squeezing the hell out of you magnetically like that. And it's like, man, that'd be really cool if you turn it up to 11 or turn it up to 12. You might achieve fusion. I might be the first human to spontaneously fuse. That'd be a good way to go. That'd be a good way to go. So we'll see. I'll keep you guys posted. So no matter what happens one way or another, we'll just we'll just be grateful for the things to be grateful for, and we'll find out. I should know by. I don't know if I'll know by Monday, but I would almost certainly know by next Stratosphere Lounge on Thursday. So they said 3 to 5 business days to get the results to the doctor, and we'll have the radiologist take a look, and he'll look at it and I'll go, oh my God, look at the brain on this guy. It's so small. How does he function? How did he drive himself here? That's miraculous. I've got to get this out of getting some questions. See, this is the problem, and not the problem. This is the wonderfulness of having such an intelligent group of folks listening here. Did you have a region of your vision loss with a fuzzy line dividing from what you could see? Yeah, I had a like looked like a wavy line, and below the wavy line was dark. Just the left eye, right eye was fine. Looked like a wavy line, like a curtain, considerably darker down below, and then it went away within 60 seconds, I would say. Excuse me, I have a sip of Pellegrino. I know that's extremely pretentious, but I also was told I should be taking in less sugar, so. At least it's not Red Bull. I hope I'm well, too. I'm sure I am. And if I'm not, then we'll deal with that in as manly a fashion as I'm capable of, without bursting into tears and crying like a small little girl and wailing and weeping and moaning and all the rest of it. No, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling fine. I'm sure I'm fine, and we'll find out. I'll give you guys an update when I find out next Thursday. LiveCode92 back with another super chat says I slept on ice on February of 23 and slid down my 12 concrete steps. I bet that felt good. Cracked a rib in my back, missed 2 weeks of work, and toughed it out for 6 weeks. I work at a hospital. I can't afford a hospital, LOL. Yeah, well, good on you. You remind me of my dad. I like to be like my dad when it comes to this kind of thing. Now, unlike me, I've never had a broken bone. Knock wood. Ow. I've never had a serious illness, or I had COVID, but I had a bad strain of COVID. But it was just a brutal flu. It was 104-degree temperature for, I think it was 4 days, and 102 for 11, so something like that. So anyway, but my dad used to just be constantly had kidney stone surgery, and back in those days they used to operate on your kidney stones with an axe. He used to have scars from a third of the way around the he'd had scars on him the size of a football on both sides, and just his carcass was just just a series of scars, and like an old lion. But my stepmother, my dad's second wife, was telling me that she woke up one morning with my dad in bed, and the whole bed was just soaking wet and cold, and she thought, my God, he died in his sleep and pissed himself or something. But it turns out, no, it's just nothing but the bed is filled with cold water, because my dad had been out back on his riding lawnmower on the hill, and he tried to mow the hill sideways, and he and the riding lawnmower went over sideways, and then the lawnmower went over him and cracked a bunch of ribs, and just the whole right side of his body was just blue with bruises. And he packed himself with ice and gone to bed and hadn't said a word about it. And I just admire that so much. He was accident prone, my dad. He wasn't even clumsy. He just had things happen to him. Hang on, here's a link on ocular migraines. Let's click that so I can have that when I have that for dessert when it's time to go home. My dad was working on taking branches off of a tree. He was up on a ladder, a lean-to ladder, a big ladder, and he was taking down branches with a chainsaw at 73 years old, and he's hanging onto the thing. He's doing the thing with the chainsaw, and then the ladder slips away, so now he's hanging on to this tree branch. He's 20 feet in the air. He's got a live chainsaw in one hand. He has the presence of mind to throw the chainsaw away so he doesn't land on it. Lets go, lands on his heel, shatters both his heels. He's laid up forever, just like that was him. He was just in the hospital all the time, and never ever complained about it. I always really admired that quite a lot, so we'll see. Anyway, that's that. The True Tales of Adventure. My Camaro is identifying more and more like a rally sport every day, and Bean's getting a little slower, but that's what happens when you get a little older. And so I had my brain MRI, and I go back for the soft tissue on, when is that, Monday morning? It's 7 a.m. I think, something like that. But we'll just, like I said, just find out what's going on, and then we'll fix it. And what we can't fix, we'll modify. We'll just patch it. We'll just jury rig it. So we'll see. I said I had some good news. It wasn't just for it's a very small thing, but for those of you who've been following the story, it's huge. The holy grail of the work I want to do on the colonies and Major Mace Mattingly and all the rest of it has been that 3D animation on solid objects, hard body animation, looks great. It's indistinguishable to the naked eye from this. Landscapes look great. I did hear from a guy who had a technique of turning metahuman animated characters and applying an AI filter over the animated characters to make them look realistic. So I hired this guy to do a test. And this is a Monday topic, but we're just going to cover it very, very briefly. And he did about 3 seconds of Davenport. That's the fourth character on the right, the smart-ass Navy fighter pilot. And it was, he says, is this in the general vicinity? And I looked at this and I thought, it works. It works. It looks like I hired an actor to come in and redo the role. Now, he's started on Mace, and there's a lot about Mace that he didn't get right, but it was just an initial test, and it's just 2.5 seconds, 3 seconds of Davenport talking, and it's like, it's not a CG character anymore. It's not a CG character. It's like I hired an actor to come into a studio, sit down, and talk to write the lines that I wrote him, and it actually works. And I don't know if anybody has seen the. We'll save this for Monday. I'll bring some examples in on Monday. But there are some mods for Cyberpunk 2077 that are photorealistic, and I mean photorealistic. These guys are riding motorcycles through city, and you can't tell it's a video game. So I'm telling you, we're getting very, very close. So so this is, yes, you get the colonies. You get the colonies for your bingo cards. You get Major Mace Mattingly. You get all that stuff. But I have seen 3 seconds of a metahuman character that I designed. I put a lot of work into getting these guys' faces the way I like them. And this guy was able to get him to look like a real character. And this is the one unbridgeable step. Everything else is doable. This was the one thing that was keeping everything, holding everything back, was that everything looked great except for the metahumans, which looked okay. They look good for video game characters, but they don't look real. And now it's like, God damn. So I said, now, can we do this? Can we do this through a helmet? I said, well, we might have to. He said, I don't know. It gets stuck on top of the image, kind of, doesn't it? Yeah, maybe we'd have to render it without the helmet, then render the helmet, and then just composite the helmet on top of it. I don't know. We'll have to see. But in any event, it impressed the hell out of me. I hope it'll impress the hell out of you. So we'll have something to show, I hope, by Monday, and I'm very, very excited about that. Okay, so let's leap into the questions, because I got to get to the veterinarians, as I like to say to Bean. We got to go to the veterinarians, Bean. He doesn't like the word veterinarian, so I just say veterinarian. Seems to throw him off the track a little bit. And as I mentioned too on our backstage show, Aesop's Retreat says, I wonder what Star Citizen looks like now. I've seen a little bit of Star Citizen 4.0. That's another Monday topic, but good for them. Meanwhile, it's politics night. I just posted, and I mean just as I was clicking on the going live button. I just posted the latest right angle, which is entitled "Release the Hostages," says Reagan 2.0. Donald Trump's called for the release of the Hamas hostages, and my right angle is about how I remember having a country that was not capable of doing anything while a bunch of Islamic, terrorist savages held a bunch of hostages for over a year, and then all of a sudden a Republican wins a big election, and before he's even in office, they release them because they're terrified of him. I thought that's a bit of a symmetry there, but is it 2024 or is it 1980? So it's called Reagan 2.0, because if the hostages are released because they're afraid of Donald Trump, and they should be, then even the dumbest geniuses on the progressive side should be able to get the point that it's not about being nice. It's about appearing strong and letting them know you're, as we would say in that right angle quite a bit, talk softly and carry a big stick. Okay, here we go. Thank you, Marusha, for curating the questions. I'll get as many of these as we can here, and we've still got about an hour, 45 minutes, something like that. Okay, so for Joe Roth. Hi, Bill. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving. We did. We had a quiet one. Thank you for asking. On election night, Trump had a popular vote lead of 5.3 million votes, 51.5%, to Harris's 47%. As of right now, on Thursday morning, 12/5, Trump's national vote lead has dwindled to 2.3 million to Harris's 49.9 to Harris's 48.3. This is because blue states, particularly California, Washington, Oregon, Illinois, and New York, still insist on counting and counting and counting every single possibly illegal vote. Yes, this continuing to count after Election Day is ridiculous. I've been following the tally since election night. For Trump's lead has been dwindling every day. For a while now, every state has had over 99% of their votes tallied, but for some reason, hundreds of thousands of votes keep being added to the totals. Yeah, it's funny how that works, isn't it? At what point does this dragged-out vote-counting process stop being understandable and start being questionable and ridiculous? It's cheating. And you know it, and I know it, and everybody knows it. And that's why we have, it doesn't matter, he's elected. So we actually have a chance to go in there and fix the electoral system, but that they're trying to wring every last drop of it, and it's as disgusting to me as it is to you. How do we know that the votes counted weeks after the election are even real or legit? Let's just assume they're not. I saw a tweet today that said it took you 120 something. It took you 6 weeks to count the votes. That means to count 400 or 200,000 votes means you're cheating. You're cheating. 48 days or whatever it's been, or 33 days to count 200,000 votes. It means you're cheating. And they kept counting until the Democrat won, by the way. They flipped a seat to the Democrats because they kept finding votes until, we got enough to win now? I guess that means we counted the last vote. It infuriates me. It makes me absolutely crazy angry. And if it weren't for the fact that we'd won this election and we've got an election integrity team coming, then I'd say, we're really just boned. But we've got 2 years to lock the door, get the thing fixed and lock the door. The good news is that the 2 years haven't even started yet, and already we're seeing tremendous progress. Trump's victory is so huge that it's like a wave that's running ahead of him. He hasn't even been sworn in yet and won't be sworn in for over a month, and everything's just fallen into place. Which is glorious. Or do you feel that a win is a win even if his popular vote winds up being only 1 to 1.5 points? Yeah, look, I don't think anybody's really... I don't want to minimize how disgusting and annoying and infuriating it is to watch this continue to happen. But a popular vote win is a popular vote win, and nobody's really counting the margins by how much he won the popular vote. He won the popular vote. And much more to the point, he won the electoral vote, and there's no turning back on that. So if they want to play these games, that's fine. Just give us more evidence of cheating for us to go find when we start getting serious about looking into all of this stuff. By the time of the federal deadline of 12:11 for all states to certify the vote totals. His lead could be well under 2 million votes at the rate they're going. His electoral win is impressive, but his popular mandate is now hardly a landslide, providing all of Kamala's votes are legitimate. They're not. This giving the left a talking point that Trump doesn't have. Look, I'm with you on this. I don't want to, Joe. I don't want to. I mean, it's just a little bit left to go on the question, but it's basically the same point. It doesn't matter. The fact that Trump won in a landslide is now part of the narrative. It's embedded in the pop culture. The Democrats talk about the landslide. The Republicans talk about the landslide. They can do all this tinkering after the fact they want to, and all of this attempted cheating, but it doesn't matter. He won by a landslide. That is the accepted wisdom, and they can try to rewrite the history all they want to, but they're not going to do it on this one. We won, and we won big, and we won the popular vote, and there you go. It's got a PS here. Most states shifted white by a huge margin, but the swing states were still very close, except for Arizona, which Trump won by +6. How does Georgia only vote for Trump by +2.2 and North Carolina by +3.2? Probably larger numbers than that. There's probably cheating. Let's go in there and find out. Seems strange that the swing states didn't see that significant rightward shift most of the rest of the country experienced. I think that the advanced voting, the early voting on the part of Republicans didn't give them a chance to do what they did in 2020. In 2020, they had a lot of votes in the bank. They had a lot of it. In Pennsylvania, they had 1,100,000 vote lead on election night. And I think what happened in 2020 was they saw that the numbers that were coming in for Trump were enough to have surpassed their banked lead of early voting. And so they stopped the machine in those 5 states. That's the evidence that there was election tampering, is that they stopped counting. They just threw the circuit breakers and just said, well, we're all just going home while you all just go home and we'll sit here and figure out how the hell we're going to cheat our way out of this. That's what I think happened. And when people, where's your evidence? My evidence is they stopped counting. But they couldn't do that in 2024 because if they'd stopped counting on the night of election night on 2024, Trump was already ahead anyway. There was not a point when he was ever behind. He was ahead in the early voting. Pennsylvania, he started out with a 350,000 vote deficit instead of a 1.1 million vote deficit, thanks to the get out the vote work done by Republicans on the ground there. So it became an unbeatable margin of victory because of Republicans doing things like voting early and mail-in votes and all the other things that I'm against on principle, but in favor of in practice, because we're back to our ancient analogy about fighting the Japanese in Guadalcanal. If they're gonna wave a white flag and we go over to take their surrender, and then they open up on us with machine guns, then there's no more white flags. We didn't create those rules; they did. But if you're going to play with people who are cheating, and you determine to stand by your guns, and I'm not going to descend to their level, and I'm going to maintain the Marquis of Queensberry rules, despite the fact that they're doing nothing but low blows, then you're going to lose. And the question is, do you become them by just stooping to their level? The evidence says no. We did not. We fought a brutal war against the Japanese by their moral standards, not by ours. We didn't take prisoners. They didn't take prisoners. We understood that's how they wanted it, so that's how it was. But that doesn't mean we didn't take any prisoners after that. Lincoln did things as commander-in-chief that were absolutely unconstitutional as president. He said he had to bend the Constitution in order to stop it from breaking, but after it was over, those dictatorial powers that he invoked as commander-in-chief reverted back to the powers of the presidency. It's not a guarantee that if you have to become a monster to fight monsters, it doesn't guarantee. It's not a guarantee that you're going to stay a monster yourself. You can say, well, we didn't want to do this, but we're going to have to, and since we're going to have to, let's do it. Let's get it over with, so we can go back to fighting fair again. That seems to be the way things play out. At least that's how they seem to be anyway. So we will see. Ian Nolan. Bill, I'm thankful so much for this Thanksgiving. Our property has actually won Best Villa in 2024 worldwide. Good Lord. There's a link. Oh my. Arizona, beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful landscape, and it's red rocks and gorgeous. Congratulations, Ian. I firmly believe that a massive spiritual revival is on the horizon on the next few years. Yes, I do too. Not because of Trump, but the events of his election were a prophesied sign from decades ago of the upcoming revival. I can provide references if you wish. Here's a political question for you. How much of NATO, the Pentagon, our traditional modern concept of our military are you willing to lose to dismantle the players involved with censorship? Well, I'll give you a couple of off the top of the head examples of things that I've been giving some thought to. We have 11 carrier strike groups. We're building new Ford-class carriers that are on the ways. Doris Miller, Enterprise, John F. Kennedy. I think those three are the ones that are already laid down in various forms. The Ford-class carriers are considerably more capable and in the long run less expensive than the Nimitz-class carriers. They require, I want to say, 1,500 fewer crew members and all the rest of it. But right now we have 11 carrier strike groups, and I would reduce that number to 6 if they were 6 carrier strike groups that were manned by fit, patriotic, non-woke sailors and Marines and aviators. I would rather have a smaller military that's more lethal than one the size that we have, with all of the woke personnel that are involved with it, and all of the the radical feminists and the whole trans movement. And we've got to recruit trans people. We have to that god awful animated army ad for my two moms, and if Pete Hegseth is confirmed and he goes through and clears out the Pentagon, and we end up losing half of our military assets, if the other half were as lethal as they should be, that would be more than enough, and I'd be willing to make that trade. I'd rather have a military that is half the size and twice as lethal than what we have now. We last lost an aircraft carrier in World War II. I want to say it was either the Princeton or the Gambier Bay. I think it might have been Gambier Bay. I think it was Taffy 3. It was the last time we lost an aircraft carrier, until a few years ago when we lost an aircraft carrier to one person. One woke sailor set fire to a number of areas inside USS Bonhomme Richard, and we lost a amphibious flat top. We lost the ship because of one disgruntled serviceman. We lost an entire flat top. Now, it's not as big as a Nimitz class fleet carrier, but it's a significant. It's an enormous vessel, and with the F-35 Lightnings and vertical takeoff Lightnings, a particularly useful. It's essentially an escort carrier again, is what it is, and it's gone now. It's been taken out of service forever because of one woke service person. It's not just acts of destruction; it's acts of incompetence. But a number of collisions and near misses in terms of the surface Navy. A number of those, a significant number of those incidents have been incidents that, let's just say, had a DEI flavor to them. They were not all of them, but there were a significant number of them. And even if it's not a DEI issue, the training and the standards are so lax and the morale is so poor that we need a warrior to get in there and just triage the Defense Department. I think I heard Pete talking about this, but I've been saying for a long time I would just simply close the Pentagon. The Pentagon is a priesthood. It's a temple, and nothing gets in and nothing gets out. and it is tremendously destructive. It's where all of the hobnobbing and the spending and the backroom deals and the all of that stuff. We've got plenty of military bases around the country. You can have our generals at those military bases dispersed, and if they need to come together for meetings, they can have the meeting at Fort Leavenworth or Fort Knox or Warner Robins Air Force Base or wherever the hell you want to have them. But this priesthood of insularity, where the deeper you go inside the rings in the Pentagon, the further away from reality you get, has been catastrophic for this country. And Pete Hegseth gets it. So he's going to have a tough time getting confirmed if they're going to try. It's one thing to try and Kavanaugh a Supreme Court justice, because a Supreme Court justice has to rule on things like women's rights and and all the rest of this stuff. But for a Defense Department secretary, I think you just plain go right at it, just like you're trying to confirm Curtis LeMay. It's like, hey, we're not nominating him for Pope. Has he done some things with women that some women find offensive? Well, maybe he has. I don't care. It doesn't matter. He didn't break any laws, and we're not. This is not. We're not looking for somebody to replace Oprah. We're looking for somebody to tighten up the Defense Department. Trump sounds like he's going to stick with him, and if it turns out, well, look, we have a 4-seat majority in the Senate, and if it turns out that there are Republican senators that don't confirm any of these nominees, then we need to make sure that they never get elected again. I mean, we need to make that a jihad. It's like if you block these nominees, because frankly, if Republicans vote as a party, there's nothing the Democrats can do. Trump gets all of his nominees unless there are Republican defectors. And if Republicans defect, then it should be the mission of the American people, of the MAGA movement. Trump should name them and say, these people block the nominees needed to drain the swamp, because they are the swamp. Ride this populism and ride it hard, and make sure that they never ever get reelected again. And threaten them with that before the vote. Just make it crystal clear to them. Listen, if you're wavering on this, I'm going to tell you. I am going to declare. I'm going to declare holy war against you if you not only if you weasel out and vote against what the Republican Party victory is. I'm gonna declare holy war on you if you deny the will of the people. Excuse me, who've been waiting a very, very long time for this moment. I wouldn't be shy about that at all. I would come down fire and brimstone and scorched earth and say, you are not going to want to face the voters if you go ahead and do this, because that's all they seem to care about. We'll see. But so I'd be willing to lose a lot of assets in exchange for better assets. I think, look, I don't think you can have too much military power, and I'd rather have 11 carrier strike groups than 6. But I'd rather, because especially since they're not all at sea at the same time. So let's be a little more realistic. I'd rather have 9 carrier strike groups or 8 that were fully effective, that had fit crews whose readiness and lethality was razor's edge and fully stocked, fully motivated, highly trained, gung-ho fighting force, than have one that's filled with all of these, either diversity hires or people who join the military so they could get their free sex change surgeries. I would rather just cut that loose and take the consequences. By the way, if you did de-woke the military, your recruitment would go up, not down. And not only would you get more people in the military, you'd get much, much better people if they went back to. So I think, was it Higgs? Well, it might have been Higgs himself who said, hire the guy who made Maverick and have him do the commercials for the Pentagon. I thought, It's easy. It's so easy. These problems are simple. Let me just scan ahead and see what we got question-wise here. We still got some time, plenty of time. Roadrunner, we got Ray Juarez, we got Jim Samples, Jacob Belichick, Bob Knife, Eric Blake, got a Mersh Stark. That's going to be a little tough. We'll see. Roadrunner. Greetings from William. Hello, Roadrunner. I'll see if I can go a little faster here. I know we're all extremely happy that President Trump will be president again on January 20th and that Republicans will have a majority in both the House and the Senate. However, with senators like Mitch McConnell, Susan Collins, I think I might have just answered this, Lindsey Graham, Lisa Murkowski, Mitt Romney, and possibly some other never-Trumpers, how likely is it that President Trump will actually be able to accomplish his mission of draining the D.C. swamp, the primary reason he was elected? So many Republicans are part of the swamp. Will he even be able to get his cabinet picks confirmed? Thanks again for providing a voice of reason even in these tumultuous times. Well, thank you for the kind words. And Roadrunner, I didn't read your question in advance, but I feel like I just answered it. The flip side of this Republican defection is that Trump ought to be very savvy and take all the advice of all of his advisors he can get to see how many Democrats he can get to flip. I mean, Bernie Sanders came out supporting Trump's desire to, essentially audit the government and audit the military. I mean, what if you traded a Mitt Romney for a Bernie Sanders? Wouldn't that be miraculous? And this has apparently already happened. I'm not saying that Sanders is going to vote for Trump's appointees, but I am saying this new alignment of outsiders versus insiders, which is the way to think of it, not Republicans and Democrats, means that you can. There's got to be. There's what was it? 47 now, 47, 48 Democratic senators. They can see the writing on the wall just as clear as the Republicans can. You threaten the Republicans and you seduce the Democrats. And that's what you do, I think. D. Martin says Bernie Sanders will say anything. He's just a player. Well, I don't know if I agree with you about that. It's very hard to find somebody I despise more than Bernie Sanders, the socialist with three mansions. But Bernie has been consistent. He's been consistently wrong, but he has been consistent. And he's been screwed over by the system. Thank God. But at this point, you take the votes where you get the votes. So I'm not saying you give Bernie Sanders, the Treasury Department in exchange for a vote, but I'm just saying that the point I'm trying to make is that this Republican-Democrat divide is not really the divide anymore. It's the business as usual rhino dino crowd and those people that want to see some real change in there. So I think it's possible to snipe a few votes from the other side. I would hope so. If it turns out that none of these people go through, then it's time for a... by the way, I had a thought about this with Hegseth. You know what you could do? I mean, really, this is just... It's not even dirty pool so much as it's just playing hardball. Let's say you like Pete Hegseth for Secretary of Defense, and I like him very much. Let's say that he's not confirmed. What is the highest position in the Pentagon? What is the highest position in the Defense Department that does not require Senate confirmation? Somebody points out Fetterman. Fetterman seems to be having some breakthroughs. What is the highest? For example, does the Assistant Secretary of Defense have to be confirmed by the Senate? Because I thought, you know what? If you don't get your confirmations, then just do what the Democrats do. Find a person in advance. You get this person in advance. I'll do it. I'd be happy to do it. Where they could, let's say Donald Trump comes to me and says, "Okay, Bill, I'm nominating you for Defense Department Secretary." Somebody who's a shoo-in, right? A breeze. Okay, well, thank you very much, Mr. President. Only you're going to be Secretary of Defense in name only. The real Secretary of Defense is going to be the Assistant Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth. You're just going to be the person who gets through on the nomination, and you're going to do everything he tells you to do. Got it. You could do it that way, couldn't you? You could find out okay, you don't get your nominee, pass a puppet nominee who who is going to do what your nominee tells them to do, and then get the nominee in at the highest possible level that doesn't require Senate confirmation. I don't know. I think it's brilliant. I think it's a brilliant solution. I don't know why nobody else is like thinking, "Wow, this guy's a kind of a political genius." So anyway, that's what I would think about doing. Roger Abdi just real quick says, "How are the views holding up for the hot mic comparison series?" They're holding up very well. In the backstage show, which we do for members only, I mentioned that 3 months ago, if we had a show that broke right angle that broke 10,000 views, that would be something to pay attention. We did 19 in a row that broke 10,000, and then that was then. Now the number's closer to 23, and half of those are breaking 20,000, and a number of them are pushing 30, 2 or 3. So the views continue to go up, and I need to continue to. We've been doing them bigger shows, better thumbnails, better titles. The last one that we did on the comparison series with Pam Bondi is now at 24,000, I think, something like that, which for us is a good number. We're going to keep getting those big numbers up there. Our YouTube view numbers for Stratosphere Lounge are way down tonight. At least compared to last week, they were 100 viewers higher, but we missed a week, so I suppose you just have to kind of get it back. But in any event, you get the idea. So yeah, I think that that we got to that the views are up, and I'm going to I had a whole long talk about this on the backstage show, and I should have this talk in public, and I'll probably do it next either Monday or Thursday. But my changing views about the YouTube algorithm, I view it less of a malevolent entity that is looking down on me with malice, and more of a mindless, soulless machine. But basically what's clear to me is the more people watch you, the more people they send you. And the more people they send you, if you can keep them on long enough, then they'll send you more. And obviously everybody has known this about the algorithm forever. It's a character defect of mine that I let myself get into this kind of fatalistic attitude, like, oh, they've just stolen all my views and they've got their boot on my neck. And now they certainly readjusted the algorithms and watched our numbers just drop, like overnight, just drop by a third or a half overnight, consistently here, then next day consistently here. But I never really thought about fighting back, but constant content, just keeping the content coming. So we got our 3 right angles are already up, and I'm going to be doing another 2 hot mics this week to just keep the algorithm warm and happy. So there you go. Thanks. Ray Juarez, hey Bill, small question for me. What's your opinion on estate tax, known as a death tax or inheritance tax? Well, it's just another form of evil, Ray. It's like you don't own your life, you don't own your house. If you don't pay your property taxes, they take your house. Oh, I made my last payment on my house. I own my house. I have the deed. No, you don't own the house. The government owns the house. You are just renting the house from the government, and the cost of the rent is your annual property taxes. If you don't pay the rent for the house that you own, then they'll take your house away. You don't own the money you made. They've taxed the living hell out of you on the way into your bank account, and now that it's in your bank account, they're going to tax it when you give it to somebody who is your heir. It's evil. It's like there's my knowledge of macroeconomics is very poor. I can understand the basics, but one of these terms is velocity, which is how quickly are dollars moving from one person to another. If you put $1 and lock it up in a safe for 100 years, that's one thing. If that dollar buys $1 worth of something and somebody then goes out and buys another $1 worth of something, so that dollar is buying things, so it's a term for the use of that dollar is velocity. And it's like tax has a velocity. They tax, you have an estate, let's say, so you had to pay income tax on the money that you made in order to buy the stuff. You had to pay sales tax on the stuff that you actually bought. And now that if you want to bequeath the stuff that you bought, that you've already been taxed on twice, now you have to be taxed on it again. And it's freaking ridiculous. And I'm so bloody tired of these people hitting you again and again and again and again and again and again and again. There's only so many leeches a person can carry around before it's not even you anymore. You're just a food source, and a host organism, and I'm with you on this, man. I think they need to lose all of these taxes. Just the idea that people can take your money like this is it. I think biblical wisdom in this particular case is great. I think that people should have to should be compulsory. Taxing is compulsory. Nobody's going to pay taxes voluntarily. But I think since the state has the volitional power to take money from you, I think we should go straight to the biblical thing. It's very simple. You can do it on your hands. I think that they are entitled to take 10% of what you make, and that is it. And I mean 10% total. Total. Sales tax, income tax, property tax, all of it. 10%. That's all. Not 10% each. 10% of everything you make. You get to keep 90%. That's what I would do. And when you take 10% of the largest economy in the world, you have enough money to do just about anything you need to do. It's just graft and grift. It is all it is, really. It's just crazy. Jim Samples. I am pissed at Trump. Okay, why in God's name did Trump remove so many representatives from the House floor? It's like he just stepped on his own dick and ours, too. He had a royal flush. He gave it up to play Go Fish. Yeah, there's something to be said about that. Matt Gaetz is probably the most prime example. The inside baseball theory on Matt Gaetz was that he would be named as the replacement for Marco Rubio. So, yeah. But yes, we got to maintain the House majority and the rest of it, So I'm with you on this. Although I've been very, very pleased with the actual selections. So take Pam Bondi, for example. She didn't have to be pulled from the team in order to play at the White House. So while there are a number of representatives that are, pulled, I just don't think. I think it's a problem. And I don't like the margins. I wish we had more of a margin in the House and the Senate. But really, a majority of one in both houses, a functional majority of one in both houses, is enough to give us 2 years to genuinely burn down this thing and then build something back in its place and then lock the doors so that nobody can undo it. So, we'll see. But I can definitely sympathize with that. Jacob Belchek. Hey, hail Bill, hail Jacob. What does the left do next? They've lost men badly. Latino Americans went for Trump and made inroads into black Americans. Even women went for Trump more than expected. Can they self-correct, or have they believed so much insanity and evil for so long that they can no longer deviate from the course that they're on? Well, the indications are that they didn't really learn their lesson. The talking heads are divided. There are people like Bill Maher and even Cenk from the Middle-Aged Turks that are, clearly shaken out of their stupor, and a number of other people. But by and large, they keep trotting out the Trump lost. I mean, Trump won because of misogyny and racism and transphobia and all the rest of it. And every time I hear them say that, I say, good, keep it up. Keep it up. I want you to stay deluded, and I want you to stay crazy, because every time you open your mouth, you just turn more people into Republicans. So I don't want you to wake up and smell the coffee and learn your lessons. I want you to ride this thing all the way down into a smoking crater in the ground. Clearly, there are some, as I said, some Democrats that have learned the lesson, but most of them are. See, it's not even a question of. It's not like they can change their mind, Jacob, and say, "Oh, I hadn't really thought of it that way. Maybe I'll be a little more conservative." It's not a question of changing their mind. It's they're changing their identity. And if they change their identity, they have to change all their friends. If any of these people start sounding more conservative, then their progressive friends will, you're dead to me. I'm never going to see you again at Thanksgiving. Never going to see you again here. My mother raised me, and and made all these sacrifices for me, and I wouldn't be anywhere, and put me through college and all the rest of it. She voted for Trump, so she's dead to me now. That's what they're facing. If they have to change their mind, it's not just their mind; it's their entire identity. Their suit of clothes. They got to burn all their clothing. They got to move to a new house. They got to, they got to essentially have to go into the witness protection program. That's the kind of sacrifice it would take for progressives to change their mind about things, and most of them just aren't willing to do it. The idea is so repugnant to them. It's who they are. It's not how they vote. It's who they are. It's kind of the difference between us. We tend to think of ourselves as people. We have family relationships and church relationships, or we have business relationships, and people have opinions of us based on on our integrity and our character. For them, it's nothing but politics, and if they lose their political identity, they lose everything. And that's what's so dangerous about them is they're fanatics who are painted into a corner. And even then, we're still making enormous inroads. So I'm feeling pretty good. Oh my gosh, poor looks like Dawn Girl said, "Yep, that's what our oldest son did to us." Apparently, did your oldest son cut you off because you voted for Trump? Said you're dead to me? Well. For what it's worth, I believe he will have a moment of redemption, but it's going to be years in the future. And at least I hope so. But this mental illness has to run its course, and it's going to be ugly. Even if things can continue to go well, I suspect they're going to go well. But it's going to get uglier and uglier as the rubber hits the road, as they used to say. When it comes time to actually face up to the fact that we're deporting people, or pass a statute that says there are two genders, or whatever the case may be, or look, whether you pass that statute or not, once you start firing teachers who are spending geometry time teaching trans philosophy, then it's going to get ugly. And so far, I think we've pretty much handled it, pretty well. It's like they're screaming they're going to shave their heads and they're going to cut off men and they're going to do all this. It's like have a good time, We're going to do the YMCA dance and we're going to stay happy. So. This is the soft landing, and the soft landing is still a bumpy landing. It was never going to be a greaser, not after all the damage that was done. But it might be the kind of landing we can walk away from. And any landing you can walk away from is a good landing, and if you get to use the airplane again, then it's a great landing. So I think that's how I see that. Bob Knife, what messaging marketing advice would you give the Trump team? Bob, I would say I wouldn't do the YMCA dance to death, but I would do the YMCA spirit. I would just go with optimism, 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 optimism. Fun. Fun and optimism. Things are going to be great, Things are looking great and they're only getting better, Doing all right. I'm getting good grades. The future's so bright I got to wear shades, I would just go with that. This is where the cool kids are now. The future is, we're not heading for this dying planet, eat the bugs future that these weenies have sold us forever. Everybody's going to have fun. Everybody's going to be happy. Everybody's going to have more than they had before, and everything is going to be okay. We're going to Mars. We're going to catch rockets in midair. We're going to do it all. And give people not just a sense of optimism, but fun. There's just no fun in this society. This is the reason I feel so sorry for the Gen Z kids. The God knows their behaviors infuriate me, but they didn't educate themselves and didn't raise themselves. They don't know how to have fun. They've never had fun. I'd say fun till the daddy takes a T-bird away, man. I would just, and he's never going to take the T-bird away. I would just be flashing the T-bird everywhere, everywhere, um, and and that's basically what I would do. Um, so I don't know if I've got time to do these. Uh, I don't have time to do them both. Marusha, I'm afraid you're going to get stuck tonight. Eric, I can work yours in because it's a relatively short one for Eric anyway, and so I'm going to do one more and then I'm going to have to split. But we'll be back in force on Monday night and back on Thursday night, uh, or conceivably Friday. But we'll get a full 2 3. We'll do a 3-hour tour next Thursday to make up for missing Monday and having a short Thursday. So here we go. Eric Blake, tonight the case of the rumored replacement. So according to official media, some unnamed reliable sources familiar with the matter are saying Trump is looking at Governor DeSantis as his potential backup choice for defense secretary in light of increasingly laughable allegations against Major Pete Hegseth. Look, this isn't Trump's first rodeo. He knows how ridiculous these accusations are. Everyone on record says Hegseth is clean as a whistle. So you know what I think, Bill? I think these "it's Ron" rumors are concocted by a bunch of DeSantis 24 zealots who still can't get over the fact that he lost the nomination and are desperately trying to make fetch happen. What say you? I don't think anybody's taking that seriously. I don't think DeSantis would take the job if it was offered to him. I don't know that he'd be particularly excellent at the job. Obviously, he has a military background. He's got great administrative experience. He's doing a great job as governor of Florida. I know that he's halfway through his second term, and I think I just don't see any. I just don't see DeSantis as a backup, and I think he's going to fight for the wire. I'll take a look at that for Hot Mike or Right Angle Marisha thinks. But in any event, I don't see DeSantis as a serious backup choice. I wish somebody would listen to my plan for Hegseth and say if he's not confirmed, then give him the highest ranking position that doesn't require confirmation. Hire somebody to be essentially, you are the guy who's going to sail through the Senate, okay, and then you're going to do what Pete Hegseth says to do. Absolutely, verbatim, word for word. You understand that? Yes, I do. You're not a quisling. You're not a coward. You're not going back on your word. This is the understanding. It's like I'm just the beard. I'm the alibi. I'm the beard. I'm the guy that gets you in the door. Because I think that what Hegseth said essentially in that unguarded moment on that interview is, yeah, you just have to go in and clean the whole thing out. You just have to cashier everybody who's in on the DEI movement. Every general, every admiral who signed off on this, you just got to just cashier them. Got to get rid of them. You got to just clean the whole thing out. That's what you need. It's not an evolution. It's a revolution, and there is no polite way to fix a problem this bad. You just got to go in there and smash things, and burn things down, because they've earned it. They deserve to be burned down. So anyway. I'm going to have to skedaddle, and I'm sorry about doing the short show, especially after missing Monday, but I do need to spend some time talking to this doctor and see what he has to say, and I've been trying to talk to him on the phone and just hasn't been able to happen, so I'm going to boogie on over there and see what's next for Bean, who's just getting to be an old cat, and there's some things you can't do anything about, and so, we do what we do with what we can, and that's how to live life, kids. So anyway, that'll do it, I think, for this edition of the Stress-Free Lounge, made possible by the members at BillWhittle.com, and we're very grateful, as always, to all of you who've joined up, and we'll be doing another membership push in the not too distant future. I'm hoping by Monday night to have enough to show you, but if not, I'm going to save it because it really is. It's a miracle. It's the one thing that was holding up the entire vision for Major Mace Mattingly and the colonies, and especially the colonies, is how do you control human faces and make them believable? Everything else works great as CG. It's just the faces. And this, I was going to say, if this works, but I've seen it. It works. It looks like I hired a guy who looks exactly like Davenport, to come in and sit there and be interviewed, and I think it's just fantastic. So I'm really, really, really doing well. Thank you for all the kind words about Bean and about me and all the rest of it. And I'm gonna be just fine. Don't you worry about me. I'm just gonna be dandy. So I'm gonna say goodnight to our friends over on YouTube. Good night, YouTube. We'll see you guys on Monday night for the Stratosphere Studio. Hooray!